Hey people, welcome to Vision to Mission. This your man Brandon here, coming to you live for the Vision to Mission Studios, man, here in Woodbridge, Virginia. All right, here's the deal. Today, we're going to talk about a topic. It's a pretty light topic, but it's a topic I don't really hear people talking about very much when it comes to business. And that topic is generosity versus fairness, right? Generosity versus fairness. In a lot of times in life, we can be very grateful when someone gives us something that we may not necessarily deserve in a good way, right? And in a biblical way, that's called grace, right? Or if you don't get what you do deserve, that's called mercy. But in business, if you get something that you did not necessarily earn, it's generosity. Now, also in business, if you get what you do deserve in terms of what you've earned, right, or what your effort has produced, one way or the other, that is fairness for sure. And I think a lot about different sports analogies. I grew up playing football. I played football for 5 years, and in different sports, you always want to have a coach that has a good mix of generosity versus fairness. Why? Well, the generosity gives you some encouragement for sure, but that fairness is what that accountability is, right? If you show up to practice, you work hard, you work smart, you make yourself coachable, right? You give every effort in whatever that is. Well, you make the team or you get the starting position, right? The starting assignment. Well, that's being fair. Absolutely. And it helps you to develop character because something wasn't simply given to you. You earned it. You put the work in, you put the determination, you put the time, you put the effort in. So let's dig in here as I look at a couple of my notes here. So, in the business realm, if someone says, well, that's not fair, the answer to that statement or the response is, well, what's the company standard? Right? What's the company standard? And I'll give a shout out to Dave Ramsey here on EntreLeadership on his book, and also a shout out to Ray Dalio on his book Principles, because really they talk hardcore, very straightforward about what's the company standard that they have set years and years ago when they established their organization. And you either fit within that company standard or you don't fit within that company standard. That company standard is malleable. Absolutely. It is flexible. It is always evolving and growing. Absolutely. Because you don't ever want your company standard to be too rigid. But at the same time, you have to have a certain set of principles, right? And standards and fundamentals upon which you stand, because otherwise your company will never really be strong. It will never be able to weather the storm, and you won't be able to build the culture in the company that you're looking to do. So, we talk about fairness, right? Now the question comes up, well, what about fair and equal pay? Right. If you look up the Lilly Ledbetter Act, that was the first piece of, I think, the first executive action that Obama took when he came into office, making equal and fair pay, or, what is an equal risk reward? I think in business, when you want to look at generosity or equality and fairness with regards to pay, in my personal opinion and in my professional opinion, it should have nothing to do with gender whatsoever. It's about that position and what type of productivity are you getting from that position, period, right? Plain and simple. What's your opinion on that? That's my opinion. So let's go into this a little bit. What about generosity? How do you define generosity, right? For me, it's again, going above and beyond what is considered fair and equitable. So you have fair and equitable here, and then to go above that is something that's generous. So let me just kind of read you a statement here, okay? So let me give you an example. If a company's quarterly bonus is about $2,000 per employee for achieving certain goals, but the boss gives them $3,000, that's being generous because it's above what the standard is. It's above being fair and equitable. Maybe the boss, recognized not only the achievements that company made and the employees made during that time, but also the teamwork and the sacrifice that it took to get there. So you have the tangibles and the non-tangibles, right? So he or she felt that giving that extra $1,000 on top of the $2,000 bonus was showing additional appreciation, right? So to me, that's like a good example of fair, generosity for sure. And also with regards to your company culture, I was just listening to a podcast and they were talking about, like, with a lot of the tech companies and things of that nature, how it's now the pendulum is coming back a little bit more to be more conservative. There's more of a correction within the Silicon Valley type of culture and environment. And what do I mean by that? So if you look back, like post.com burst and all that stuff, if you look past maybe over the past 5 or 6 years, so many companies were trying to attract talent, right? And so in attracting talent, what's the first thing you got to do? You got to offer a higher salary, right? So of course you offer a very high salary, but also they were building out facilities, renting out facilities or whatever, where there's ping pong tables, right? Video game machines, soda dispensers, gyms, in-house masseuse where you get everything, or a chiropractor where you get everything at a discount, having all of these extra amenities because they were trying to build a certain environment, right? And that environment would help to buoy the company culture of being more relaxed. If you're more relaxed, then you could be a higher producer and everything. Well, when you do that, that's really being generous if you look at a normal standard. But then that generosity then became the standard. And that's what people came to expect. Now, what's going on in the economy is that revenues are down, stocks are down, inflation's up, interest rates are up. So now there has to be more of a shift, right? And all of the excesses of the past are now being adjusted or normalized. So that's yet to be seen. What's going to happen in the economy and what's going to happen with a lot of these companies. But my guess is that, you know what? They don't have the money to spend on all that extra overhead, all those extra expenses. Hey, I'd love to go to a place, right, and have a job where I can just kind of play ping pong kind of for an hour, go work for a while, go get my back straightened, right? Go get a shave haircut, whatever, go back and get some work done for a while. Hey, maybe if I'm being productive and if the job is task oriented and I'm getting everything done, maybe that's good. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm a little bit more old school, not crack the whip old school for sure. But, doing all of that, it really kind of takes your focus off of the mission, directly at hand. It kind of puts it on it being more of a recreational type of atmosphere. And so that's not necessarily something that I'm against, but I'm certainly not a big proponent of it for sure. And I think that's really been seen more in a lot of the tech industries. You definitely won't find that as much in the financial industries or other industries outside of that. So, that's just my opinion. But my question to you is this, as I'm looking at some of my notes: what is your company culture? Like, what's your company culture? What do I mean by that, for example? Is it a 4:59 p.m. culture, right? I remember back in the day, I used to work at a bank. I'll not say the name of it, but it's one of the largest, probably top 3 banks in the country. And that was what's called a personal banker. And one of the things I loved about working there, because I worked in a branch, was that it closed every day at 2:00. 2:00. Was I getting paid a lot of money? Not really, but I was single and hanging out and having fun. But I knew it every day at 2:00, we were shutting it down. I would kind of work on all my after closing follow up and work and getting everything done. And typically I was walking out the door to go home or go to the gym or whatever around 2:45, maybe 3 p.m. the latest. Can you imagine that? Right? How fun that was and how amazing that was. But again, that's what the company standard was. Now that changed. But I was like, man, I just love that. But the 4:59 culture is like, look, when I clock out, everything's on my desk. Everything's still on my computer. I don't have, the government used to have Blackberries, right? Don't got my Blackberry, don't got my iPhone. I'm not worried about what's going on there. I've left it there. The problem and the issue will be there and it will be waiting for me when I get there in the morning. There's some companies that have the 4:59 culture. There's others that have the 6:00 culture. Let me stay a little bit longer. Let me get some things done. Let me call some clients. Let me get some things resolved. Let's get some things done, right? No matter what the size of your organization or what its mission, in my opinion, it's most important to get the job done. Working in finance and working in mortgages and real estate, God help you if you have a 4:59 p.m. culture wherever you work, because let me tell you, that will not work. It's more of a 6:59 culture, really, when you work in this. And for some people, it's a 7:59 or an 8:59 p.m. culture. But I don't really think that's very healthy, because as Dr. Henry Cloud says, you need to have some boundaries in your life, right? So can I get an amen on that? And still on the flip side, with regards to generosity, it can lead to the mentality of entitlement, right? And taking things for granted. And that's really where it becomes twisted and misunderstood, because then again, as I talked about before, that generosity becomes the expectation. And I really think that company heads, founders, managers, supervisors, anyone who enacts that type of thing, I really think that you do yourself a disservice when you do that. And again, you have to be very incremental and very pointed and very directed in what you're doing. You always want to take care of your people, right? Because your people are your company. Your people carry and push forward your company. So you always want to take care of them, but you also have to be wise in understanding human nature and how quickly that human nature can meander and kind of go off course. So the question is, how do we find that healthy balance, right, between making sure that we have very low attrition rates and that we have a high company morale, right? Versus, okay, well, I'm overspending on overhead. Now we got some financial issues. You might be forced to make some tough financial decisions, right? And so for myself personally, I am grateful, like, for anyone's generosity. Just growing up in Baltimore, Maryland, growing up in the city, like, I definitely kind of taking a step back and looking at how I grew up and then looking at how God has blessed me and all the different things in life. I, for one, am someone who's grateful for generosity. And I hope that I have the right perspective on it. Like, and it's not like an unhealthy perspective. So hopefully that makes sense. But at the same time, having played sports for most of my life, right? Having gone to certain academic institutions and having to work hard, and having had certain supervisors in my life. And now, for the past several years, being self-employed, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, having to run a multi-person company, I also understand, and I'm gaining a deeper understanding every single day of the whole realm and topic of fairness. Because fairness is, think about it like this, like, you're not being fair to someone if you don't tell them the truth. You're not being fair to someone if you're not holding them accountable. You're not being fair to someone if you're not being honest with them, and if you're not being open with them, and vice versa, right? They're not showing you fairness, and they're not showing you accountability if they're not, reciprocating and giving you the same, so that you can grow, in your character, so that you can deepen in your character and evolve and be a better person. So here's the thing. And I think especially if you're starting a new company, if you have a small company, I really encourage you to look at this within the culture and the environment of your organization, right? Because again, you want to figure out, okay, what motivates my people the most? Does, having a bonus and having a higher salary or more money motivate people? Does having more responsibility or some type of a title motivate them more? Do they want to get like a trip somewhere? Do they like to go on vacations and get little vouchers and things of that nature? Do they want some public recognition? What motivates people is very important. So you want to be able to customize how you show your generosity to them, so that you're translating that to them in their own love language, right? Makes a lot of sense. And so again, I've been learning this all along within running a business. So hopefully this helps you. I encourage you to check this out again and looking at generosity versus fairness. Both are great concepts. Both are things that we always want to enact every single day in our companies and really in our lives, and even with children, with relationships, because it helps to give us a better, more wider perspective. So listen, we love you here from the Vision to Mission studios. Hope that you're well. God bless. Take care and be safe.